Hello, all you imagination vampires out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello's Data.
What up?
Today we're going to discuss and review Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 21, The Muse. Alternate title, Much Odo About Nothing.
Yeah, okay. I'll allow it.
I wasn't sure if I used that one before or not.
I had the same thought when you said that, Emily. That seems like one we could have used before at some point. I don't know that we did.
Like, I don't know if this episode has anything to do with the plot of Much Ado About Nothing, but that pun popped into my head, so I was like, I don't think there's ever going to be a better episode to use it, so.
I'm trying to remember the plot of Much Ado About Nothing now. Hold on. It's been a long time. Let's see. The play is set in Messina and revolves around two romantic pairings that emerge when a group of soldiers arrives in town. The first, between Claudio and Hero, is nearly scuppered by the accusations of the villain, Don John.
Oh, no.
Yeah, well.
Close enough. And, coincidentally, anyway, but before I get to that, as always, you can expect full spoilers up through the episode being discussed. A possible small number of minor spoilers for later in the series kept to an appropriate minimum. The Muse originally aired on April 29th, 1996, which is The Simpsons that episode was. Can you guess what Simpsons episode was that week?
What week again? Say it.
April 29th.
April 29th. So we're just... Nope.
So on May 5th, which was the next Simpsons episode, was Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh.
Coincidentally.
Well, there you go.
I discovered that fact after I came up with that alternate title.
Sure.
Anyway, this episode was written by Renee Echevarria, story by Renee Echevarria, and Majel Barrett Roddenberry.
Hey, we know them.
Whose name is very long.
Yep, it sure is.
Which she doesn't usually put that Roddenberry on there. I guess, like, as a writer, she goes for that Roddenberry.
There was already a Majel Barrett in the Writers Guild.
Coincidentally. And directed by David Livingston.
Yep, nobody really knew to talk about this time.
Yeah. But anyway, so Jake Sisko goes to the promenade to watch new arrivals and mine them for story ideas.
Yeah, he's just legit ripping everybody off who walks in the door. It's kind of...
Yeah.
Like, come on, Jake, be a little creative. One of the guys... let me find this note. So one of the guys walking in the door at the beginning of the episode when Jake's staring at them is a guy named John Paul Lona, who won the walk-on role by designing the winning makeup for the alien in a competition run by Playmates Toys. Among the judges of the competition were Rick Berman, Michael Westmore, Robert Blackman, and Dan Madsen. Lana named the character Runep and the species the Razinians.
Okay, so there's a contest to design an alien.
It said it was a makeup contest, so yeah, I would assume that it was for an alien.
Okay, and he won the contest, and he won a walk-on role.
Yep.
Okay.
Let me see. I want to take a look at. But did he walk on as the character that he designed? Is the question. Yeah, I guess so, because it says that. Yeah. All right. This is kind of a cool. Here, I'll share the picture with you. It's kind of a cool alien.
Huh. Interesting. It's like a skull on the outside alien.
Yeah.
So good for that guy.
Yep. Way to win a contest.
Yep. But behind that guy and the bullion wearing a wig and the possible thief disguised as a monk, or possibly just a regular monk.
The bullion wearing the wig is so bizarre because it's like, do you think anyone thinks that that's normal? Like they've never met a bullion before? I don't understand.
I don't know. Look, I say rock whatever you want to rock, bullion, dude.
Yeah, and no, I mean you do you.
But yes, that is an unusual fashion choice for a species that does not have hair. But behind all those guys, a lone woman steps through the door. Jake finds himself intrigued by this mystery woman, even though she looks like Count Dracula. The woman looks up and sees Jake. And they, make eye contact or something.
I feel like she's like, hey, look, some kid's staring at me. Oh, well, and then walks off. Like, it doesn't feel like this is significant to her, but then later she's like, oh, man, I knew from the moment I saw you. And I was like, really? Did you?
Meanwhile, Odo strolls into his office and finds Loxana Troy sitting in there crying. He asks what's wrong, and she dramatically reveals she's pregnant. Which, why was this such a big, sting moment?
Well, apparently, the original idea for the episode, pitched from Majel Barrett Roddenberry, was that Loxana is pregnant and shows up on the station claiming the baby is Odo's.
Okay, because that's what I have noted is, are we supposed to think that Odo might be the father when we get this big reveal? Which would make no sense, but...
Yeah, no, so I guess maybe that's a holdover, this dramatic moment. But so from that, Renee Echevarria wrote an episode with 4 primary storylines, all focusing on couples. So we had a Ramen Lita story, a Cisco and Cassidy Yates story, an O'Brien and Keiko story, and the Odo and Loxana story. However, nobody was happy with the concept. According to Bear, the script meeting for a standard episode is usually 2 days, 3 if there are any problems. This script meeting lasted 6 days, the longest in the entire run.
So it's like, okay, get rid of that Ramen Lita and O'Brien and Keiko and Captain and Cassidy stuff, and just put in an imagination vampire, and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, apparently that's when it wasn't working out, they're like, okay, well, why don't we do this? Let's put a good B story in there to I don't know, 4 A stories weren't enough, so they're like, let's chuck a B story in there, maybe a strong B story. So they're like, okay, what if we did something with Jake's creativity that we saw in The Visitor? And Ronald D. Moore is like, what if he becomes involved with this woman who inspires his writing? It would fit with this overall couples design of the episode that we're going for. And then they're like, what if it was a much older woman who's only interested in him because he's a writer? And then eventually it's that's boring if she's just some normal older woman who's interested in writers. What if she's a vampire?
That's a good idea progression there.
Yeah.
But anyway, after the opening credits, Loxana explains her situation. So her husband and the father of the baby comes from a culture that separates the sexes until age 16. Meaning male children are taken from their mothers and raised by their fathers.
Not even told that the other sex exists.
How this system possibly works from a practical standpoint, I have no clue.
I mean, they'd have to have different planets or something. I don't know.
Basically. And it's like you don't even know your mother exists, so where do you think your dad is going to, does your dad just leave the room sometimes to go talk to a mystery person and then come back?
Maybe when you're raising the kids, you don't see each other.
Huh.
It would be hard to have any more kids, yeah.
I feel like the system is not conducive to population growth.
Maybe what really makes the most sense is that you're sending your kid off to another continent to what's basically a boarding school, and so you have the all boys boarding school continent and the all girls boarding school continent, and then the parents don't see you that often.
Maybe. But apparently the husband had originally agreed not to abide by that tradition, but has now reneged and wants that baby for himself.
Yep.
So Loxana ran away. Odo speculates that maybe this will show the husband how strongly she feels about it. But apparently he's a really stubborn dude, and that's just not going to play. And Odo says he'd like to help, but, he's too busy, doing stuff.
Yeah, no, stuff.
Yeah, it's
Odo stuff.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd like to want to help you, but...
I'd love to want to do that.
But so Odo offers to arrange a transport to Beta Z, where she can have her baby. Well, Waxana says that's the first place that Jayal, who's her husband, will look for her, which...
Yeah, she's also like a high-ranking ambassador / like noblewoman on Beta Said. I feel like if husband comes looking for you, then the government would be on your side.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some legal stuff in this episode that I'm not sure about, but...
And I want to know where Mr. Hom is. Like, why isn't he helping out? Have we seen him on Deep Space Nine at all, actually, now that I think about it?
I'm sure we haven't. I completely forgot he existed until you said that. So
I think maybe the only reason I remembered is because I was just reading about this thing where it's like, I don't remember if it was a book or what it was, but it's like Mr. Hom shows up and
nice.
Oh no, I was reading about some adventure prompts for the Star Trek Adventures tabletop RPG.
Okay.
And one of them was like some of this radiation from that planet that the Baku live on in Star Trek Insurrection is like being sold on the black market, and you have to go and like pretend to, like, your Starfleet officers have to go and like infiltrate the sale or whatever. And one of the people bidding is Mr. Hom, and it's like, why is he there? Is he maybe like trying to buy a present for Oaxana, or is he there on her orders? Who knows?
It's you mean that radiation? That radiation that is like makes you young. Why is that? Why is that illegal?
I think maybe you're just not allowed to steal it from the Baku and go around like selling it, because that was the whole point, was that like the Federation was trying to steal it or something. Yeah.
So the Baku, who are not native to that planet, like those 300 people or whatever, get to have the radiation all to themselves.
Yeah, that's there.
That's right. That's right. Anyway, Jake sits in the Replomat writing something when Creepy Lady comes and sits at the table next to him and introduces herself as Onaya. She starts up a conversation about Cardassian architecture, apparently being the only person in the entire Star Trek universe who likes Cardassian architecture.
Well, except for Cardassians.
Maybe. She mentions that she used to know a famous Cardassian architect, so famous that even Jake has heard of him. So...
It is weird that Jake's like, oh, that famous Cardassian architect? Like... This is not his area at all, but whatever.
Right. I mean, this must be just such a famous architect that he's known all over the galaxy or something. But she gives herself credit for bringing him out of his shell and helping him achieve his full potential. Shame he died so young, though. She then mentions that she has ways to help Jake unlock his secret talent if he wants to come to her quarters tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, she does. Yeah.
Jake says he'll be there, although she doesn't give him a room number.
It's okay. You can just be like, computer, where's Onaya staying?
Yeah, true. Yeah, so he figures either he'll get some good writing tips or some hot, creepy vampire alien sex.
Yeah.
Either way, he's happy.
I like, so there are more notes about the breaking of this story. So after they've come up with this story, they're sitting here and Moore says, the notion of this exotic, beautiful older woman who comes to you and gets excited by watching you write is like the most ridiculous idea. Only a writer would come up with that. Think of it. You're sitting there writing and she's just entranced. We watched that scene in the dailies and we thought, are we insane? What are we doing? How did we get here?
Yeah. Although if I was sitting writing and that lady came and sat next to me, I would immediately be like, are you a vampire? But,
You're just genre savvy enough. Robert Hewitt Wolf says that they came up with the space vampire idea because they were like, that's the kind of thing they would have done in the original series. Let's get that going.
Sure. So later, Jake is at home writing, and his dad comes in asking if he's ready for their big trip to, quote, the Bajoran outback. So yep. The planet Bajor just has an outback somewhere on it.
I'm looking up if we ever find out more information about the Bajoran outback. So I'm on memory beta, and half of the memory beta entries is from the Muse. The Bajoran outback is a remote area of Bajor, okay? And then one other sentence Jake once commented that Elam Garrick's shop on Deep Space Nine seemed to sell everything from formal dinner attire to clothing that could be used on an expedition to the Bajoran outback. From the Deep Space Nine novel Cardassian Imps.
Okay.
That's a cool title. Cardassian Imps. What's that about?
Cardassian Imps.
Oh, I don't like the cover of this. This appears to be a Cardassian with wings and antenna. What?
Well, I mean, I don't know what to imagine when you say Cardassian Imp. Like,
well, that's true. Bored stiff, Jake and Nog are looking for action in all the wrong places. They've played all the family Holosuite games, and the adult games are strictly off limits. So when Garrick, the only Cardassian on the station, suggests a trip to the unknown depths of level 45, they're ready to go. Level
45 of the station?
I guess?
So there's just this level that nobody knows what's down there?
That's what it sounds like. When they arrive on the musty, abandoned deck, they find a funny Cardassian toy that says Moop when activated, and then discover the replicator button on the toy. Perfect. They can replicate enough Moops for a baseball game. But suddenly the figures that stand before them are as tall as Nog, and they're replicating themselves.
What is this story?
I guess this thing with the antenna and the wings is a Moop.
Okay, so let's recap. Jake and Nog are feeling bored and or horny.
Right, yeah.
And they go to Garrick. And Garrick is like, why don't we go to the mysterious level 45? So they all go down there and they find a weird toy that replicates itself. But then it grows big.
It presumably comes alive or something if it starts replicating itself.
Uh-huh. I
assume that they're not just standing there making lots of themselves not doing anything. But also,
okay.
I'm not sure from the description that Garrick even goes with them. It's like he suggests a trip to the unknown depths of level 45. And so, but then it doesn't mention him again. So I'm like, was he not around for the Moop thing? I don't understand.
Huh. So they go to Garrick's. Garrick's like, I don't know, go to level 45 or something.
Leave me alone.
Yeah, who knows what's down there? Could be something interesting.
So yeah, no, that's that book. If you want to go out, the cover of this book, I like the very top. It says all new adventure based on the hit television series Star Trek Deep Space Nine.
You know that was a completely different story, and that person had to wedge it into Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
To get any publisher to buy it.
It's like, Moop, what's this shit? Get this out of here. But you slap Star Trek on there. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so anyway, yeah, Jake and Ben and Cassidy, we're going to go on this trip to the Bajoran Outback. Captain Sisko got his, Bajoran Outback clothes and everything, so. But Jake is like, nah, I got to write and or hook up with a creepy alien lady, so you guys go on without me.
Yeah, his dad's like, I mean, you can write with us. This whole trip was your idea. And he's like, no, I got to write. He can't tell his dad. It's like, I'm going to get some alien strange tonight, so I can't go.
In Quarks, Lwaxana tells Worf, Dax, and Kira about her situation, bumming everybody out. Worf is in his martial arts outfit, but Dax and Kira are dressed up for King Arthur's court, so I don't know exactly what everybody had planned for tonight.
I feel like it's like Dax and Kira were on their way to the holodeck, and then they stop to talk to Lwaxana, and they get involved in this conversation, and then they miss their holodeck time, and Worf shows up for his holodeck time, and also gets drawn into the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Really, honestly, Worf should know better than to get involved in a conversation with Lwaxana. He has enough experience to know not to do that.
In my imagination, it was like Dax and Kira were going to do their King Arthur's Court program, and then Dax invited Worf along, but forgot to tell him what the program was, so he assumed it was they were going to do some sword fighting or something.
I mean, if you're in a King Arthur program, maybe you are going to do some sword fighting. He just came prepared.
True. Yeah, she was like, oh yeah, you'll love it. It's swords and swashbuckling. He's like, I will bring my batleth and my... It's like, okay, yeah, sure.
You know, I'd pay to see that episode, actually.
Yeah.
They're in there doing King Arthur stuff, and Worf, taking out Lancelot with his batleth. Yeah, no, this would be great.
Like a Klingon spin on King Arthur.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Anyway, everybody's bummed out. Quark complains to Odo about Lwaxana being a huge downer. So Odo steps up and takes Lwaxana on a walk back, which just, I guess, happens to go back by his quarters. And then Loaxana uses the pretense of a malfunctioning replicator to invite herself in for a cup of tea.
Well, apparently her quarters are across the way because he's like, "Here, you go into your quarters," and she's like, "Oh, mine doesn't work. Can I go in there?" So I guess that's how they end up here.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. She would, sneakily get quarters right across from Odo's.
Well, he's got to protect her in case her husband shows up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, so maybe they did that on purpose. Then Loaxana asks Odo if he's over Kira, and he says he's happy for Kira and Shakar. Which, good for him. I keep forgetting that relationship exists, but... Because it's like, we never... It wasn't like Kira and Barile, where it was like they were constantly referencing that relationship.
Well, there was the time her boyfriend sent her on a mission that almost got her killed when the entire delegation died.
Yep. But so Loaxana's baby starts kicking. Loaxana and Odo take a seat on the floor, and they have a sweet little moment. And then Loaxana falls asleep in Odo's arms.
And he's like, "Ah, crap, what do I do now?"
Yeah. Admitting her replicator isn't really broken, and then Odo turns into a blanket for her.
Which, so is he stuck there, while she sleeps for 8 hours, and then he's going to need to regenerate?
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah.
It's not like he can sleep while she's sleeping.
True. Then Jake shows up for his date in Onaya's quarters, which are filled with burning candles and gossamer curtains. And a big,
She really decorated quick.
Yeah, a big couch or mountain of pillows or something. And Jake sits down, and they talk about his idea that he has for a novel. And then she gives him a pen that used to belong to a famous writer that she knew. Shame he died so young, but... then she tells him to start writing, and as he does, she massages his neck and head, and then wisps of magical energy start coming out of his head into Onaya's fingers. And she's into it.
Nothing wrong there.
Yeah. I don't see anything problematic about this.
So, according to this character is based on the Leonanshi of Irish folklore, who is a fairy who is a recurring character in the Dresden Files series, in case any fans of that out there. But anyway, so who also inspires artists, but takes their lives at a young age.
Huh.
So she lists Keats as one of the artists she's inspired. He was an English poet who died at 25, but is considered among the best. Other names she mentions are Catullus, a 1st century BC Roman poet, and Tarbold, an alien from Canopus planet who wrote the poem Nightingale Woman, which Gary Mitchell quotes in the original series episode Where No Man Has Gone Before.
Oh, wow. Deep cut there.
Right? Interestingly, when writing the teleplay for this episode, Renee Echevarria was instructed by Rick Berman to use one human name and 2 alien names. After Echevarria had decided on Keats and Tarbold, Robert Hewitt Wolfe then chose Catullus because, being an ancient Roman poet, the concept of muses would have been important to him. However, in the episode, Meg Foster mispronounces the name, which disappointed Hewitt because now it sounds like some wacky alien name.
Aw. Well, maybe that's how he liked it pronounced. Who knows?
I mean, honestly, if you'd said it correctly, I still wouldn't have known who you were talking about offhand, so...
So back in Odo's quarters, Odo and Loaxana play a stimulating game of what did Odo change into? And then
they're having fun.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
She thought he was the weird window screen thing, but actually he was the surface of the big sculpture thing.
Yep.
So didn't know he could do surfaces, huh? But they're interrupted by a call from security that JL has just showed up on the station. So Odo meets with JL, who bears a striking resemblance to the late great Dahar master, Kang.
Yep.
And tells him about a legal loophole he found where the male baby is not actually the property of the father, but of the mother's husband.
Which, bizarre that it would have been phrased like that in the legal document.
Right. Who knows? This is just a weird sounding planet all around. So
it is a really strange sounding planet. According to this, in this scene where Jayal meets Odo, he pronounces Loaxana's name as Loxwana.
I noticed he was pronouncing it kind of weird. I was like, what did he say? Loxana? Yeah. So, yeah, Odo intends to marry Loxana and own that baby for himself.
Yep, my baby.
Yep. Then Odo explains the plan to Loxana, who is touched and accepts. But there's a wrinkle that apparently he didn't read about in his reading through this alien law, that apparently the wedding won't count if anyone present doubts Odo's sincerity when he declares his love for Loxana.
Which is that once again, ridiculous. It's like an ex-boyfriend who doesn't want you to get married could just show up and be like, nah, I don't believe it.
Yeah. So, yeah, they have to put on a show so convincing that JL will truly believe they're in love. And don't worry, he can't just lie and say he's not convinced for some reason. That never happens. It's like, that would be so dishonorable or something, nobody would ever do that, I guess.
On this planet, who knows?
Yeah. Maybe you have to, like, take a lie detector test to prove that you're not convinced or something. I don't know. Back in Onaya's quarters, which did those previous 3 scenes all take place during this one writing session?
Yeah, who knows?
Jake continues his writing until his nose starts bleeding. But he ignores it and keeps writing, much to Onaya's creepy delight. He's like,
oh no, stop,
my
please.
nose. I'll keep writing. Then it's immediately time for the wedding. Odo begins giving his love speech, but JL is like, bullshit.
I do like all of Odo's friends being like, they're not in on the scam, so they're just like, yeah, Odo's legit getting married. I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. They're like, hey, okay. So yeah, Odo starts his speech again, and he talks about how special Loxana is to him for loving him for what he is and helping him see he could have a place in the world and all that. And then I was reminded of one of my favorite movies, The Royal Tenenbaums. Immediately after making this statement, Royal realized that it was true. So, immediately after making this statement, Odo seems to realize that it's true.
Yep. Not that he's like in love with her, as we establish later, but the rest of it.
Yeah. But Kang is apparently convinced. Or he believes that everybody else is convinced enough that nobody will support his bullshit calling or something. And steps away gracefully. And then everybody goes to Quark's for a party. Which we don't see.
Yeah, party! Odo's having to foot the bill for this catering.
Yeah. You know Odo's going to get this bill.
Yeah.
I mean, meanwhile, Jake is still writing his novel while Onaya feeds on his creative energy. And she tells him to go home and get some sleep. Because Odo conceived, planned, and executed an entire sham wedding while he's been in this writing session.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. But instead of going home, Jake goes to the promenade for an orange juice, then collapses in the replimat. So, it was a good thing he went there instead of home, because nobody would have found him.
I mean, I don't know how long it is after this that his dad is here, because, I mean, like, we cut to his dad being there in sick bay or whatever.
Yeah.
Or the infirmary. So, I don't know, maybe dad shows up, like, would have found him right after.
Maybe. I mean, I assumed they just called him in the Bajoran Outback. And he rushed
maybe,
back.
yeah.
But in the infirmary, Bashir delivers the horrifying news. The capillaries in Jake's cerebral cortex have dilated by 20%. And to make matters worse, his neurotransmitter production has increased by at least that same amount.
Oh my gosh.
But he'll be fine.
Probably.
Jake wakes up long enough to say one word. Onaya. And then Ben is like, I think I better go talk to Odo about this. Then later, after hours or something, a golden mist appears in the infirmary and materializes into Onaya, who punches out the nurse and tells Jake to come away with her. And he's like, okay.
Sure.
So later, Chief O'Brien detects some psionic energy in the infirmary. So, psionic energy. It's bad stuff.
Yeah. Stay away from that or something.
They have to get Jake back to the infirmary before that psionic energy causes too much damage. Jake and Onaya seem to be somewhere in the bowels of the station, possibly deck 45 or whatever.
Yeah, probably that's what it is.
Bathing in psionic energy together while Jake writes. But Jake is fading fast. Then Ben action jumps into the room with a phaser and is like, hey, stop that. And then Onaya gives a little speech confirming what we already deduced, that she's some kind of creativity-stimulating alien parasite or whatever. And then Ben tries to shoot her, but she turns back into the golden mist and just flies through the wall out into space.
All's well that ends well.
Yeah.
Until she finds someone else to kill.
Yep. So she's still out there somewhere. Then Lwaxana comes to Odo's office and says that she's found a transport to Beta Z and she's going to go home and have the baby. So I guess once you're convinced during the wedding, anything that happens after the wedding, like, you can't call bullshit after that.
Well, I mean, yeah, he probably can't call bullshit, but Odo did say, it's like, we'll stay married long enough for appearances and then we'll get it annulled or something. So I guess, they don't just cut the wedding right away. I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't seem that unusual to him that she would go home to have the baby and that Odo wouldn't go, because apparently he has no problem with, like, taking the baby and leaving for however long. And, like, yeah, I don't feel like this would seem weird to him.
But yeah, Odo tries to convince her to stay, but Lwaxana says that he just wants company. And Odo's like, yeah, so what's wrong with that? But Lwaxana's like, but you're not really in love with me, and you're never going to be in love with me the way that I want you to be, so we should just stay friends. And then she kisses him and says goodbye. But he's like, wait, I own that baby, though. No. Then Jake is recovering at home, and Ben comes in having read the beginning of his novel. He says it's really good, but Jake worries he can't really take credit for it, so Ben tells Jake that it was him who wrote the words, regardless of who is shooting psionic energy into his brain.
Yep.
And then Jake looks at the manuscript, which is titled Anslem. Yeah. And then writes, by Jake Sisko on the title page. The end.
So, yeah, Anslem, the book that we saw him write in The Visitor.
Or we heard that he wrote.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. And another random connection to The Visitor. At one point, Jake is reading a Horatio Hornblower novel when his father enters the room. The same novel he was reading in The Visitor.
Huh.
In my mind, that was less planned than like, hey, we need a prop book. And this is the prop book that's laying around.
Yeah. No, they're really trying to, like, subtly show how Jake is a huge Horatio Hornblower fan.
We've got lots of interesting things about the reaction to this episode. Although not from other people so much. So the Muse proved to be not a popular episode among some members of the crew. For example, David Livingston says, I think this was one of my poorer efforts. I let the material down because I just didn't know what to do with it. Similarly, Ira Stephen Bear says, the script had problems. And Ronald D. Moore says, we always start with good ideas, and there's always a reason why we try something, but they just don't always come out right. And let's see what else. Ira Stephen Bear is quoted in here saying, when we came up with the story, it was such a wacky idea, the danger of creation. History's filled with self-destructive writers. It would be nice to find out why writers can be so self-destructive, and we did. It was kind of a demented yet interesting attempt. It's a weird show. It's a show that we enjoyed. I haven't heard much reaction from the fans. I do think we gave Majel some good stuff to play with, and I think Odo helps. Rene Auberjonois really helps sell those scenes. So yeah, he's not exactly effusive there.
So, okay, wait. He thought this was a commentary on the self-destructive nature of writers?
Yeah.
I guess the real problem is that psychic
Aliens.
Vampires are feeding on them?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the truth behind the legend.
All right.
In 2012, David Livingston stated that he wished The Muse had never been produced, remarking, that was not a good one. One thing the crew did love, however, was the performance from actress Meg Foster. According to Renee Echevarria, Meg Foster was perfection. And Ira Stephen Bear says that he sought Foster specifically to play the role, saying of her performance, she's so seductive and interesting. You can fall inside those eyes.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't she wearing contacts or something, or did I imagine that?
I don't know. I mean, Meg Foster is a name that I've heard, but is she like famous for something in particular?
I think it's just a common sounding name. I don't know.
Let's see. I'm gonna go look at the stuff that she's been in. Let's
research this.
Check out this IMDb page from Meg Foster. I mean, he says he sought her out specifically, which definitely sounds like she's known.
Yeah.
Recently, a lot of horror type stuff. Hellblazers, Haunted 333. There's No Such Thing as Vampires. Let's go back to some Jeepers Creepers 2. No, I'm sorry. Jeepers Creepers 3.
Oh.
Anything I've heard of? Oh, she played Hera on Xena and Hercules. So you got that going for you.
Nice.
This episode of Deep Space Nine. It's an episode of ER. Three episodes of Quantum Leap. Well,
ooh.
Come on. Anything that like I know of? Like, there's a big long list, but it's one of those like an episode here, episode there,
sure,
TV movie here and there. She played Evelyn in the Masters of the Universe live action movie.
Oh yeah,
that's classic.
The one with
Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren, and Skeletor has a skull painted on top of his face or something.
Yeah. I don't really see anything like big for her, or not that looks to me. So anyway, but I don't know that I agree with them. It's like, oh, she's so seductive. I'm like,
yeah.
I felt she was kind of off-putting, honestly, but it kind of worked for the role for me, so I was okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought she was immediately creepy. I don't know if that's the way they had intended it to be. I kind of believe that Jake might get sucked in. I think
he's a teenage boy, you know. Yeah. Any woman shows interest, you're like, oh, okay, I'm here.
I think he's shown plenty of interest in older women before, and
it's true.
I think he might have some mommy issues going on.
100%, yeah.
Especially after that Shattered Mirror episode. So,
what else is here? Meg Foster enjoyed the episode, particularly for meeting Majel Barrett during filming. Okay.
Huh?
Good for her.
Yeah. I mean, I bet Majel Barrett's a cool person to hang out with.
Yeah. Or was.
I think just today, a Conan O'Brien interview with Patrick Stewart got uploaded.
Ooh.
Where Patrick Stewart talks about getting to meet Vivian Leigh in one of his early acting jobs.
Yeah.
So I'll put a link to that in the description.
Yeah, I'll wait till this episode comes out and then I'll watch that.
Oh yeah.
This might be good to lead into the title discussion.
Oh,
because there's a note. The original title of the episode, because remember, the original A story was, well, like 4, but like
right.
the Odo Loaxana thing was the original A story. And then and they had the other relationship ones. So the original title was Playing House.
Okay.
Before Onaya became like the A story.
Okay.
Although I don't. This says that that's the A story now. I don't know that I feel like that is the A story.
Yeah, I can't decide if there's an A story in these two stories, but I guess they decided that the psychic vampire was the A story. So okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think of the title then?
This one hits for my criteria of I know what episode you're talking about if you say that name. Like I know I can't think of another one that fits as literally as this one does.
Sure.
That being said, it does feel just kind of blah. Like, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Playing House feels worse. Even if you want to call the Loaxana Odo story the A story, I'm like, ugh. Okay, yeah. Playing House, sure.
I mean, it's a little, it's not flashy, but I kind of respect it for that. For not. It's like the Muse. It's like, okay, I got you. Okay, wait. I forgot that a long time ago, before I went on vacation, I noted down. Okay, so we should review titles on 3 axes. I decided.
Okay.
I thought I put down 4, but I only wrote down 3. So okay, memorableness, cleverness, and relevance. So I think you're saying memorableness. Pretty good.
Yep. I think it's relevant.
Yeah, definitely.
Cleverness, I say, is where it falls down.
Yeah.
Interestingly, 4 years later, this episode aired 29th of April, 1996.
Yeah.
26th of April, 2000, a Voyager episode called Muse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did it involve Onaya?
It should have, right? Like,
right.
She heads off to the Delta Quadrant after this. No, Torres is stranded on a pre-industrial planet where she becomes the inspiration for a local poet.
Oh, okay. They're like, can we call it the Muse? They're like, no, that's taken. How about Muse?
How about Dax? No, that's taken too. Damn it. Okay.
It's like the Social Network. It's like, drop the. Just Facebook. It's cleaner that way.
There you go. I speak just randomly, since I randomly thought of Dax. I was on Facebook the other day, and there was in a Star Trek group, there's this conversation where several people are like, Dax is like the best trial episode Trek has ever done. And I'm just like, really? Really? Okay.
Yeah, I think depends on I guess what your criteria are for what makes a good trial episode. Apparently it's not the trial makes sense.
They felt that it really did a great job developing her character.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was like, I don't think it did, though.
All those scenes of her sitting there staring into nothing while other people argue totally developed her character.
So yes, we had a discussion about that, agreed to disagree in the end. But yeah, that's maybe, I mean, I think that at the time when we were looking at the end of that season, it was like, man, people rated this higher than we did. I think that was one of those. So
yeah, I don't get it, but if you like that episode, more power to you, I guess.
Right? Yeah. Once again, you do you.
Yep. Okay, so how do you feel about the episode, The Muse?
So this is one that I always do remember from the show. This isn't one of the ones that I'm just like, oh, that was an episode.
Uh-huh.
But I remember it because it feels so mediocre to me. And maybe it's just maybe it's the title being The Muse. That's the story that I remember from the episode. I don't remember the other half of the story as well. But I'm just like, it's like, oh yeah, there's that episode where this lady like tries to kill Jake through inspiration.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I don't think we've ever rated Lwaxana episodes super highly. I feel like she's less annoying in this one than in some. Like she's not tainting all of the cast with her emotional problems or whatever, except for that scene where she kind of does. But like I kind of feel for her and her struggle here, and the wedding seems kind of silly to me, but it's like, okay, I'll suspend disbelief this far, I suppose.
Yeah.
It seems bizarre to me that, like, apparently after the last time we saw her, she just went off and got married. But I think we established in Next Generation that getting married to random dudes is a thing that she does.
Yeah, so, I mean, that totally tracks for Lwaxana.
So, yeah, her story, her part of this episode, I'm like, it's okay. It may actually be a Lwaxana story that I dislike the least of the Lwaxana stories that we've had. I don't remember all of them off the cuff, but it's not as fun as everyone getting all crazy emotional, but it's okay. And then the Muse story, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't care, I think is what it comes down to. It's like, all right, this is a thing that happened and is is not relevant to anything that came before or really anything that will come after. So it has it feels like it wants to play off of its connections to the Visitor. Like, you love the Visitor, right? Well, here's some connections to the Visitor. You'll love this too. I would say that it's below the line, but just a little below the line because I don't care enough to dislike it that much. So it's a lieutenant.
Okay. I think I'm kind of the opposite on memorableness because I didn't remember this episode at all.
Okay.
And in fact, like, so I watched the episode, then I went on vacation, and then I came back, like, just 2 weeks later, and I had already completely forgotten the Jake part of the story. So I did watch this episode twice. So the first time I watched the episode, I was mostly focused on how stupid every single part of it was.
Okay.
Although I do like the emotional journey of Odo, and I think that Odo and Lwaxana, they're a good. Their stories are compelling. Like, I think back to whatever the one was where they got stuck in the elevator, and how I had remembered that one being a really dumb episode, but then like when we rewatched it, I was actually kind of like drawn into the kind of touchingness of it.
Yeah.
So I feel kind of the same way about this one. You know, the entire wedding thing is completely ridiculous and stupid, but just having Odo like kind of appreciate like what Lwaxana has done for him, where she's the only person who showed him interest, and like she made him feel less alone and less isolated, and he really appreciates her for that. And then you know, I thought that all that stuff was really good, and it made me continue my admiration for Renee Echevarria, where like the whole story is stupid, but his writing, and especially like the way he handles the characters through it, is really well done. And so it's like he's able to take these just two completely dumb story ideas and then kind of weave them into a couple of sort of compelling character stories. Which I totally was ready to put it below the line after my first watching, but like after my second watching, I kind of realized that the Imagination Vampire story, although super dumb on the surface, I did kind of like it as a chapter in the Jake Sisko writer storyline. So I mainly like it for the Jake, not for the Onaya.
Sure.
And then I also like it because this is a good example of kind of like a slow, relatively low stakes character episode, which, you know, we can kind of take a breather and kind of dive into a character without them having to like go through a horrible 20-year mind prison experience or something like that. So I think after watching it twice, I'm willing to put it a little bit above the line into Lieutenant Commander territory.
Okay. I will agree with you that it is a really solid Odo character moment when he makes that speech. And I'm like, okay, that's the one moment in the episode where I'm like, this feels like something that matters.
Yeah. So I think it's just really impressive the way like Renee Echevarria can like kind of find like kind of a core emotional moment like that and sell it, even in such a ridiculous episode of this, where like Kang is in the background being like, "This is not true love" or whatever. Anyway, any final thoughts, or you want to tell us? You want to get on the elevator and pitch us the next episode?
Yeah. Okay. So the next episode
is
it is. There's a lot of The Departed in here.
The Martin Scorsese.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. The Departed, and then it feels like we're going.
And we are aware that is a remake of a Hong Kong movie.
Yeah.
Or actually, we're not aware of that. You should correct us in the comments.
Sure. Why not?
Yeah.
Make comments. Whatever. I feel like they're trying to combine it with a little bit of like Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, but like not well. It's like these, they can't quite make it work.
I mean, those are two very similar stories to begin with, so like, you know, two like mole hunt stories.
That's true. I hadn't actually thought about the mole hunt aspect, even though that is the major center of Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. But yeah, that's I was kind of thinking of some of the other things about it. But yeah, no, that's fair.
Sure. Okay, so yeah, look forward to that. Yeah, sorry we had to take a week off. I went on vacation and then I got lazy about recording, so. But you know, we always come back eventually. Although it is my secret dream to get to like a really big episode, like In the Pale Moonlight or something, and then just like stop right before that.
Wow, that's sadistic.
Just so people's like, oh my gosh, they're finally about to get to In the Pale Moonlight, and then it's just like we never upload again. Or we just switch to a completely different TV show.
And here's the first episode of Sliders.
Yeah. It's like, finally, it's like this has all been in preparation for our review of Sliders.
What's the episode right before Pale Moonlight? Hold on. Season 6, episode 19. So we want to go season 6, episode 18.
That's logical.
Yeah. Inquisition. Okay. So I was like, you have to build off of that, where it's like, it was just so interesting in Inquisition that it like led us down this completely different path.
Right.
And we're going to start this new show now about maybe the Section 31 show will be on the air, or was it a movie?
Ooh.
They're doing a show or a movie. I forget.
I mean, they're always saying they are. I'm really skeptical about this, but
Yeah, that's true. Although I just read that. That's the Starfleet Academy thing. Like I just read that the girl who plays Mariner, rolled up sleeves girl on Lower Decks, has been confirmed that she's a writer on the new Paramount series, but it's the Star Trek Starfleet Academy series that they're working on.
Is that going to be a live action?
I think so. Let's see. Starfleet Paramount Plus' Star Trek Starfleet Academy, with filming planned for 2024, is a young adult focused series about cadets hoping to become Starfleet officers. I guess it doesn't say.
I don't know why that concept just doesn't appeal to me at all. Or I guess I do know exactly why it doesn't appeal to me at all, because I don't want to see people at Starfleet Academy. I want to see people in Starfleet doing Starfleet stuff.
I am of two minds about it. Like,
okay.
Depending on what time period they set it in, if we continue to move forward in time and we allow for like the evolution of the Star Trek universe to like, we learn more about where stuff goes after. I don't know if I'd want to go post Picard. Maybe like post Lower Decks, which would be just before Picard, something like that. If we allow for new lore in the universe and the evolution of, relationships with the Romulans, relationships with whatever, as a backdrop to what's going on in the Academy, I could get interested in an Academy, but I don't want to see like Kirk era Academy, because then I know everything that's going to happen already, and I have
a sinking feeling it probably is going to be like, original series era stuff, but you're right, that would be cool if it was like actually moved the franchise forward.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. There's a I'm reading her Twitter post, which includes what I presume is a promotional thing. For the first time in over a century, our campus will be reopened to admit individuals, a maximum of 16 Earth years or species equivalent, who dream of exceeding their physical, mental, and spiritual limits, who value friendship, camaraderie, honor, and devotion to a cause greater than themselves. The coursework will be rigorous, blah, blah, blah. So
there's no Starfleet Academy for a century?
A century? Like, how
did people get into Starfleet?
I don't know.
Was there no Starfleet?
I want to know now. What is happening here?
So,
because it seems like it's after, like, this isn't before Starfleet, because it says that they were open a century ago. So I don't,
So that must mean it is like distant future or something, right? Because
yeah, it could be like, somebody comments here. This means it'll be like post Discovery, which I haven't watched Discovery, so I don't know how I feel about that going that far. Maybe it could be good, but yeah, I like the very first comment on or response to this. Oh, actually posted by the official Star Trek Twitter account. The first response is from the Gay Republican, and it says, "Please don't be insufferably woke. I have a feeling it will be."
Gay Republican, you say? Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
My patience for people who complain about wokeness is
no, I know.
is just incredibly low. Incredibly low.
Man. So anyway, yeah. I want to know more before I decide if I am interested in this show or not.
Sure.
I think that's where I'm landing here.
Might at least watch the first episode. Who knows?
Yeah.
You have the latest of the Section 31 show anywhere on there?
Oh, I totally got distracted while I was looking to see it. Hold on. Section 31. Here we go. Star Trek, 2 days ago, Star Trek boss reveals Michelle Yeoh's Section 31 film status.
Oh,
film.
Okay.
But of course, Michelle Yeoh is like that. It'd be like a Discovery film spinoff. So I guess I'd need to actually watch Discovery if I want to do the Section 31 thing. Okay, let's see.
I don't think I even will before I see the movie. So
the Star Trek universe, under the leadership of Alex Kurtzman, has been abuzz with updates on the much anticipated Star Trek Section 31 movie, especially post writer's strike.
Oh, so Alex Kurtzman is still in charge?
I guess so.
Terry Metalis hasn't overthrown him yet.
Doesn't sound like it. Would Michelle Yeoh, having recently clinched an Oscar, continue her involvement in the project? That's what every Trekkie wanted to know. Alex Kurtzman at New York Comic Con confirmed Michelle Yeoh not only remains a part of the project, but she's supporting it, quote, with all her power. Ooh. All that Oscar power. So that's there you go.
All the power of her character from that movie that she was in.
This is a significant reassurance for many, especially considering her skyrocketing career trajectory following her acclaimed role in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I still have not seen.
Yeah. Rakakuni. That's... I want a full Rakakuni movie. That's all I want.
Well, they've shifted Section 31 from a limited series format to a full-fledged movie, with Yeoh continuing to star. She expressed, "I'm beyond thrilled to return to my Star Trek family and to the role I've loved for so long. Section 31 has been near and dear to my heart since I began my journey playing Philippa. We can't wait to share what's in store for you, and until then, live long and prosper, unless Emperor George Yeoh decrees otherwise."
So that's a quote from Michelle Yeoh. A totally real thing that she said, and not that a Paramount PR person wrote for her to say.
Yeah, that's I don't know.
All right. Did it say a director in there?
No. It's there's a quote from Paramount Streaming's chief marketing officer. Who's like, yeah, this is great. I can believe actually that if you've got this Oscar winner like backing it, then Paramount Plus, which is having issues, would be like, yeah, let's go all in on this and maybe get some of that sweet like Oscar spillover.
Sure.
Let's see. Anything else in here about directing or anything?
I saw the other guy. I still haven't watched the new season of Loki yet, but the other guy from Everything Everywhere All at Once is in Loki, right? So,
oh yeah. He shows up in the first episode of the new season and
short round.
Is instantly my favorite character in the show.
Oh, nice.
I can't even explain why. I was just like, I love this guy.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta watch that at some point, but I forget that I still even have Disney Plus, which they still just take money out of my bank account.
Yep. I think I haven't watched this week's episode yet, and I need to.
Oh yeah.
I haven't watched the new episode of Lower Decks that came out today, so I need to get on it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, falling behind.
Anyway, yeah, we better wrap that up. So
Yep.
If you made it this far, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check the description. Maybe I'll put something interesting in there, like that interview with Patrick Stewart I was talking about.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. But I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
See ya.
Until we meet again, keep the blood wine warm and the prune juice chilled. I don't want any room temperature prune juice.
Right.